Justice Department officials appointed by President Donald Trump have made sweeping changes since he returned to office. They've redefined the focus of key divisions and challenged legal norms. And thousands of career lawyers have resigned or been fired. Former Justice Department officials say those changes are transforming not only what the department does, but what its leaders expect from its employees. Justice correspondent Ali Rogan asked several former DOJ attorneys and leaders to reflect on what they've seen and what they believe it means for the future of the institution.
Trump appears to be having as much trouble holding on to his aides as he does ending the war in Iran. Trump's deputy White House press secretary is leaving, just a continuation of the exodus from this sinking White House. Now, she was in charge of the press around the Department of Justice, the Capitol, and the Department of Homeland Security. All three areas where Trump is really failing and underwater. And it was her job to somehow help their image. The other thing that she came under fire for, which created a lot of news, was the release of a redacted photo from the Epstein files. It had Bill Clinton, Michael Jackson, and Diana Ross. And then it had blacked out the images of the children, which implied that somehow these were victims. But it was in fact fact-checked by people online because the real photo had been released as part of the event's official photographer, and it was actually their own children. This was evidently the extent she was willing to go in order to deflect attention on everything that Trump had in those files.
My name is Kyle Boynton. Prior to leaving the DOJ, I was a prosecutor with the criminal section of the Civil Rights Division. I started my career with the Justice Department in 2010 as a special agent with the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
My name is Anam Petit. I was an immigration judge within the Department of Justice prior to my termination in September 2025.
My name is Brendan Ballou. I'm a former special counsel in the Antitrust Division of the Justice Department.
My name is Sean P. Murphy. I'm a former assistant United States attorney. I most recently worked with the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Puerto Rico, but I work on a detail with the Capital Siege section out of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia.
The Justice Department has long been a place and had a tradition of being apolitical in its approach to things. And I was increasingly seeing decisions being made within the Civil Rights Division for political reasons. And that troubled me.
I left because I had spent 2 years prosecuting January 6 rioters. On the very first day of Donald Trump's second term, he issued a pardon for, over 1,500 people who were accused of attacking the Capitol that day and the people inside. So it was obvious to me that Donald Trump was going to try to use the Department of Justice to enact vengeance, to enact violence against those who opposed him. And I thought that I could do more good on the outside than I could on the inside.
I decided that I needed to leave the Department of Justice because I saw the writing on the wall. There came a time shortly after Pam Bonie's confirmation as Attorney General of the United States that she sent out a series of memos. One of those memos in particular said that as AUSAs, we were expected to be the president's lawyers and do whatever he asked of us. And failure to do so would be to deprive the president of his attorneys. That didn't sit well with me then. It doesn't sit well with me now.
The harm that this administration is doing to the Department of Justice and to the rule of law generally in America is generational. It is going to take decades to recover from the damage that they have caused.
We've seen this administration hire many new deportation judges, as they're calling them, instead of immigration judges.
Famously, of course, lawyers are leaving the Trump administration. The New York Times did a report, and evidently it was to the tune of 10,000 lawyers who have left across all agencies, not just the Department of Justice. And the reason why this is so harmful for Trump is because you need lawyers in order to implement your regulations or enforce whatever you're trying to do in law. I mean, they are being sued so many times by nonprofits and states across the country. You need lawyers to defend it. You need lawyers in the EPA to defend it. You need lawyers in the FDA to defend it. Not just at the Department of Justice are there lawyers. And perhaps to make it even more sweet, but also a lot more damaging for Trump, well, these lawyers evidently aren't just going into private practice. They're actually going to work for the states, the blue states that are suing Trump, or nonprofits, which means that you have this huge exodus of career attorneys who fully understand the departments that they used to work for as lawyers, going to help the other side. I mean, this is what happens when you ask your lawyers to lie in court. And we have seen again and again judges talking about that. Perhaps the most famous example of that is the recent Judge Kathleen Williams, who eviscerated Todd Blanche, who at the time was acting attorney. Well, at the time he signed it, he was, I believe, acting attorney general. But this lawsuit started before that, the Trump $10 billion IRS lawsuit. She said he should have recused himself because of conflict of interest, and basically said that Trump, President of the United States here, colluded with the attorney general. This is how far you have to go as a lawyer to still have a job in the Trump White House, which is why so many talented lawyers have left. And they have left in a way to make it a lot harder for Trump to continue his lawlessness, his desire to reshape our country, frankly, to somehow keep all of the power and allow President, him, of course, to do anything he wants. So no, the exodus continues. I'm sure it will even ramp up soon as that midterms are done, which should be probably heavily in the favor of the Democrats. The exodus will continue and probably even get faster.
Sarah, we were talking about the ritual humiliation of Republicans and men like Jay Clayton. I didn't think I'd see Trump humiliate his own base. And by calling affordability a hoax, by assuming they'll be with him for a war of choice in Iran, for his complete indifference and disdain for people who say they're upset about the economy, it seems like, his effort to humiliate his own voters. What do you think is behind that?
Yeah, you know what's really interesting about this is that Republicans spent years mocking the Biden administration for trying to gaslight the American people and telling them that the economy was great when people were feeling the exact opposite. And they clearly learned nothing from this, because this is exactly what the Trump administration is doing. They're trying to gaslight their voters and tell them everything's fine. Putting Kevin Hassett out there and having him go on the news and say that the economy is amazing. I mean, are you kidding me? And I look at the difference between what Biden was dealing with versus what Trump is dealing with. The things that Biden was dealing with were things that were out of his control when it came to the economy. When it came to gas prices, you had the war with Ukraine and Russia that was causing gas prices to skyrocket. And you look at inflation, he was dealing with the ripple effects of COVID still during his presidency. Then I look at what Trump is dealing with in his second term, and it's all self-inflicted. The tariffs that he put in place that were completely asinine are what has caused inflation to stay where it's at and the cost of everything to continue to rise. And you look at gas prices, his war of choice with Iran has caused gas prices to skyrocket. So it's just amazing that they clearly have not learned the lessons of the previous administration and then are trying to tell their voters that everything's fine. And the thing is, I think that people do feel bamboozled. They voted for President Trump because he said that he was going to lower prices on day one. He said that he was going to be the peace president. He said he was going to do all these things. And it turns out that he's done the exact opposite. And so it is just a slap in the face to the people that put him into office and that have supported him, for them to continue to try to gaslight them.
Breaking news right now, my brothers and I wrote a book. It's called WTF America. And well, doesn't that just say it all? It comes out officially this October, but you can pre-order your copy today. Just scan the QR code or click the link in the description below.